there's two zones. The reason the ISO models the two zones is there's limitation of the flow of electricity back and forth. And so again, you can't put all the generators up in Maine and assume that that power will flow to Rhode Island, because there will be limitations in the amount of power that moves from a north to south direction. And sometimes it's easier to think of the electric system as a water system, and the pipes are only so big to carry so much water. So the system has to have resources in geographic areas to assure reliability. And that's what they refer to as when they say the CNE zone versus rest of pool, or the CNE zone versus northern New England, is there's a limitation there that may cause reliability concerns. And so the ISO models those two zones and says, okay, we can't have all our generation in Maine, because if it's all there, we won't be able to get it to Boston, Providence, etc., where it's needed. But in the last several capacity auctions, there has been enough resources locally, both the CNE zone and elsewhere, that that constraint was not a problem, and it did not bind, as Mr. Fagan said, and it did not cause a difference. Does that make sense? So it's a constraint that has to be modeled and considered, but it doesn't necessarily impact pricing. Does that make sense? And I'll just add, the reason why the ISO does it that way is that if that constraint becomes problematic, they want to make sure that they're sending the price signals to the right location. And so they want to make sure that the CNE zone clears at a higher price, which is a signal to some resource to come to CNE and be built, as opposed to going to Maine and be built. Does that make sense?
Great.